Hi, everybody. My name is Katherine Fry, and I'm the CEO and president of Mediafy Communications Group. This is Chat with Kat, and on this podcast, what we do is we shine a spotlight on local businesses. And the business that we are shining a light on today is Blue Horizon Docks and Decks. They are a local company in the greater Chattanooga area that does exactly what their name indicates. They build docks and decks. And we have the pleasure today of having their head of sales, Zane Condo, with us today. Hi, Zane. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Doing good. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to kind of delve into your background a little bit. How did you get into docks and decks and just building in general?
Yeah. I've been in construction over 20 years. Started out, in high school, just working a construction job, but I went on, I've
Mhm.
studied construction in college. I've got a construction engineering degree. Um, Worked
So
for
you have an extensive
big
background.
corporations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done
Mm.
it all in construction. I've worked for big corporations. I've done, handyman remodel work myself.
Mhm.
At the time I started getting into docks, I was building a few spec houses a year. Had a few guys working for me, and had a customer that I worked with and worked for. He was in the construction industry who needed a dock built, and
Ah,
he and I kind of were brainstorming how to do that. Also, at that time, I was living on the water. I had a home on the water, so I
oh,
was living that lifestyle and had a dock myself. And I knew there was kind of a demand, a need for it, and just through that, I found a way to kind of break into the dock building business, and I never expected it to take me as a full-time job. I thought it would just be something that supplemented the
mhm.
home building I was doing at the time.
So, okay, so tell us about your first big project working on docs, and I'm sure you learned a lot from it. I'm sure there's a huge learning curve. So tell us about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I would consider my first big job was that job for my friend. Uh,
Mhm.
that was the learning experience. I'd gone out and bought a barge from another dock builder up in the Knoxville area,
Mm.
and he kind of gave me some tips and pointers, but he kind of left it open ended because he wasn't going to give me all the you know tips and tricks to the trade.
Yeah,
And so
right.
myself and the guy that worked with me at the time, we went out and just figured it out. Not only the equipment and the barge and the crane and all that, but actually the,
Mhm.
the new we all had construction experience, but the nuances of a dock and you know how to properly go about building that. So by far
Okay.
that's my most memorable job, and learned the most from. And I would
Oh,
say
I bet.
I've learned from every job ever since.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing learning process, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Especially for, yeah, working on the water. Are there any certifications or training? And if so, what what certifications or training are most important in this field?
Yeah, in the dock world, which is primarily what we do,
Mhm.
there's no real like specific certifications.
Okay.
Anybody that's in the business should have a general contractor's license through the state. Um,
Right.
that in
Okay.
itself doesn't mean you're a dock builder; it just means you have the capability to handle a project of that size. And really,
Okay.
it's just all experience, just doing it.
I would think so. Yeah, you definitely have to have experience in doing this, especially working on the water. Goodness, I mean,
Hmm.
I assume it can be quite challenging. Um, so even though docks look a lot like decks, there are
Hmm.
obviously significant key differences. Can you tell us what those key differences are between like building a dock
Yeah, I
and
mean,
building a deck?
yeah, I mean, you kind of hinted on it, but when you're building over the water, there are challenges.
Mhm.
Building a
Yeah.
deck, you're typically, even an elevated deck that's a story or even 2 stories above the ground level. You're on the ground. You have a place to stage your
Yeah.
equipment. You can put ladders up. You can access everything. Being on the water, you're kind of creating something in the middle of a void in a space that's, not suitable to be
You have to wear a
working in.
bathing suit? Do you wear a bathing suit when you're
Yeah,
out there doing this?
yeah.
Yeah,
And in
I guess
summertime,
you
yeah,
would,
guys are
wouldn't
in
you?
the water daily. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's easier to jump in the water and get to where you need to be than it
Yeah,
is to get in a boat and move around. Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess you would get really
But
wet, and if it's summer and
yeah,
really hot, I could just go out there and have some fun and build that dock, right?
yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, on the surface, stuff's the way it looks. But the major difference between docks
yeah.
and decks is the foundation, and that's the in the dock world we call them piles, but the posts that the docks sit on,
Mhm,
that getting those installed the correct way and secure, that's the biggest difference, really. And that's where we see mistakes from other, you know,
oh,
homeowners try to
yes.
do it, or more of a handyman type. The lakes around
Mhm,
here, TVA drops the water levels where, you can get out and get access to dig a hole, put a post in
mhm.
concrete and build off of, but that's not always the proper way to do it.
Okay, I see. So, how do you assess a client's site before recommending a design?
Yeah, so I always like to meet with the customer. Um, One, look at the property, look at the water, look at the shoreline, and also get a feel for what the customer wants to use the dock for. Um, some
Mhm,
people consider a dock just a storage for their boat and an access to water.
mhm,
Other people look at a
mhm.
dock as a entertainment space, a sitting area, kids,
Ah,
grandkids,
right.
swimming, that sort of thing. And so it's
More like a
how are you
deck.
going to use the dock? Yeah, exactly. How are you going to how do you plan on using the dock? And, then we can design around that to suit your needs.
And then you can make those docks have covers over them. I mean, can they be almost like a room? I've seen some like that before that are almost like
I mean, yeah,
rooms.
certainly the what we would call the sun deck area, that would be the space,
Mhm,
uh, uh, the space where you're hanging out and sitting. Certainly you can have a
mhm.
roof over that, ceiling fans.
Oh, so you
TVA
can do all of that.
doesn't. Yeah, you can do, yeah, all that, and roll a grill out there, hang out, cook out on the dock.
Wow.
Kids can swim. All that right there on the water.
So I'm sure you get all kinds of requests from clients, but how do you balance client desires with structural and environmental realities?
Yeah, I mean, structure would be the biggest thing. A lot of people have big ideas, and in reality, we can only build something that's going to, I'm not going to build you something that's not going to last. And, we just kind of have to balance that, what they're wanting versus what within their budget
Mhm,
and within code and structural,
mhm.
integrity we can do. That's
So
just,
talk about
meeting
code.
with the customer, getting that. Go ahead.
Kinda getting a feeling for what they want, and now, are there a lot of permits that you have to get? Are there a lot of regulatory hurdles that you have to overcome when you kinda take into consideration what a client wants, and then what needs to be done to make that happen? I'm assuming there's a lot of permits and so forth you have to get.
Not a lot. Just the major key one that you've got to have is TVA. TVA controls not
Yeah.
only the water but
Ah,
also up to their flood line. And you know, just to build a dock, you've got to go through their permitting process. Um,
mhm.
so as long as you're within what they permit, there's a lot of routing
You're
options you can
okay.
do. But yeah,
Okay,
TVA is
okay.
the biggest thing.
Are they easy to work with? Are they difficult to work with?
Um, It's time consuming.
Ah,
In this day and age,
tedious.
a lot of people don't have the patience to wait out and let the process play out. But
Ah.
um, for me, I find it fairly easy to deal with. But I've been doing this for a long time. Homeowners sometimes struggle with that, but you know,
You also seem like a patient man. You're patient, where
uh,
perhaps sometimes clients are not. So,
uh, yeah, correct.
yeah,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so I know you indicated that you're often working out in the water, obviously.
hmm
What material is best in holding up within these salty or harsh water environments?
Sure. Yeah. So, wood obviously is the standard for any kind of dock build.
Mhm,
In the past few years, there's other composites, different materials that we can use that hold up to the moisture of the water and all that better. But
mhm,
still, wood's kind of the golden standard, mainly because of price point. Um, Composites and all that they're more commonplace now, especially in decking. But we can build a complete dock out of composite. When I say dock, I'm talking strictly fixed docks. Floating
mhm.
docks are a little different, where they have aluminum structure or sometimes galvanized steel,
Ah,
would hold,
yeah, I
hold up a little
see.
better than wood. But in the fixed dock world, composites are available, and if your budget allows, you can certainly build a non-wood composite dock,
Okay.
ground up.
What about
hmm
PVC? Use PVC?
Yeah, PVC decking is real popular. One of our most favorite products is a PVC decking product. We're seeing
Ah,
more and more of that. There's other decking manufacturers that are moving to PVC and away from kind of the generic term of composite. But the
ah.
generically composite would be like a wood fiber and plastic material. There's a variety of brands and styles of that.
How long does that last? How long can you expect a deck made of, composite materials to last?
Yeah, so the product we use most, they have a lifetime warranty. So it's a limited
Oh,
lifetime warranty. Um,
okay.
Obviously, it hadn't been out for hundreds of years, but it certainly seems
Right.
to be. It seems to be working great. Most of the composites, what you see in the decking products, those warranties range from 25, maybe 50 at most years.
Okay,
And again, that's a
okay.
limited. Mhm.
I would assume it would have to be somewhat limited. So,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
like
so
there's certain things like UV fading and that kind of stuff that the warranty doesn't cover, but actual structural integrity is what that warranty
Mhm.
is,
Okay,
for.
structural integrity, alright, and if they
hmm
do start to fade, what's the remedy for that? Is there anything that can be done? Paint it or restain it
you don't.
or
I haven't seen. Well, not in the composite world. No. There's
okay.
cleaners and stuff that sometimes can be used if it's
Ah,
PVC that can bract alive, and kind of
mhm.
protect it, just like a plastic on a car or something of that nature.
Oh, I see. How do you choose
hmm
fasteners and connectors for longevity in wet conditions, such as the ones that your decks are built in
Yeah, so
or your
we
dock
just use the best product available, which for all of our screws and fasteners, we're using stainless steel. We know that's
stainless
not going to
steel?
rust. Yeah, it's not going to enter. If we're using treated wood products, the treatment in those wood products can deteriorate other types of fasteners. Stainless steel, some of the hangers and different things are galvanized steel, but we just look at the best available option for that environment.
Are there new materials or coatings that you're excited about?
That composite world, they're constantly changing and adding new types and styles. There's nothing that really stands out that's more exciting than the others. I haven't seen anything that just blew my socks off in a while. But
Okay.
it's a slow process of you know new products in that space.
How often are new products coming out in that space?
I mean, the composite's been around for as long as I've been in construction. There's a lot of stuff happening with boat lifts, new designs. That's mainly driven by the new boats. 20, 30 years
Mhm.
ago, boats were smaller. Now, with the wake boats, even, 20 years ago, tritoon, pontoon, those are all getting bigger, heavier, longer. And so the
Yep.
boat lifts have come a long way as far as design styles and, efficiencies.
Hmm. All right, excellent. What are the most common construction mistakes that you see out there in regard to docks?
Mm, yeah, from non-dock builders, I would say, we kind of touched on it earlier. Um,
Mhm.
Guys go out and build a dock on when the water's down in the mud and that foundation, that
Mhm.
starting point of the dock build. they do it like they're building a deck or something in their backyard,
Mm,
and over time that just won't hold up. Um,
mm,
at times, s- sizing of material and spans and that kind of thing. People try to cut cost here and there. I see that often, and then over 6, 7, 8 years, that just doesn't hold up.
mm. So they think they're saving money, but they're actually just simply going to have to
They
have
are,
the entire project redone, and then they're not going to save money.
yeah,
They're paying
they are
twice.
exactly. Yeah, they're saving money, but they're gonna have to redo the work in a short time
Right.
period versus just doing it right the first time and knowing it's
Doing it right
gonna
the first
last.
time. Right, exactly. So Blue Horizon Docks and Decks does it right the first time. So you don't have to come back 6 years later, 7 years later, and redo it again, is what I'm getting. And from what I understand about Blue Horizon. Am I correct in stating that?
We press on doing it right the first time with the best materials we could.
Excellent. Correct. So you do right the first time with the best materials. Okay. Can you walk us through the typical build process from excavation, piling to finishing?
Yeah. So starting out, like you said, piling. So we come in by boat. We're using
Mm.
barges to bring most of the time material in.
Oh, wow.
Uh, the,
Yeah.
we all start with the foundation. That's the piling. So we physically drive the pilings into the lake bed. And we drive to what we call the point of refusal until it will not go there. And then from that, we have the foundation of the dock, the deck level that we can then build off of to get into the roof system, roofing, decking, boat lifts, and then electrical. If there's any ceilings, you know, edge bumpers, to all the accessories out the back of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. How do you ensure structural safety in situations like that for floating decks?
Yeah, so like a floating dock, our all of our floating docks are pre-engineered, so they're
Mm.
designed
Ah,
to to hold certain weights and common use of people being
mhm.
on the dock and all boat lifts, all that. It's all pre-designed into the dock itself on a
Okay.
floating dock before we even start assembling it.
And what about fixed? How do you ensure structural safety for fixed docks?
Yeah, we're just using standard building codes that
Standard
are
building code?
designed for the
Okay.
same process, same live loads and all that you would have inside your home or a deck.
And once you get started installing a dock, is there like an average time it takes to get it completed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that depends on the size and the scope of the work we're doing. On average, from start to finish, we're hitting about 4 weeks.
Ah, so about a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can have
Yep.
a beautiful dock, floating or fixed, in about a month. Okay. I mean, of
hmm
course, it might be longer. I'm sure
that's
there are people with, just an average.
yeah, that's the actual work time from time we first show up
Okay.
till the time we leave, and you can use the dock fully. It's
Mhm.
usually about 4 to 5 weeks.
Um, what tools or technologies have improved your workflow the most?
Yeah, probably more technology on the side of software. We used programs that help us quote and then invoice, schedule, all integrated into one system. That's probably been the
Mm,
biggest, uh, technology change that helps us with being efficient.
okay.
On the
And then
equipment on the equipment side,
yeah.
uh, there are some new things out there, pile drivers and that kind of stuff, equipment side, but it's nothing, you know, so new that it's life changing for us.
Okay. You guys have been doing this a while, so you know what you're doing, and you have your standard
Yeah, yeah,
operating procedures and so forth. Oh, heck, you've got
that's
it down
right.
to a month. Wow, okay.
That's right. That's right.
Um, What routine maintenance do docks and decks need to extend their lifespan? I know you said there's a limited lifetime warranty, but if I purchased a dock, what could I do to make it last longer?
Yeah, I mean, obviously keeping it clean. If you're in a wood dock, um, there are options for stain and those kind of things to kind of help protect and prolong the life of your decking. Um, those are certainly things that should be considered. Probably the most neglected and overlooked are boat lifts. A lot of the older style boat lifts require uh, grease on their gear plates and all that, and a lot of homeowners just neglect that. But that should be done twice a year. I usually recommend
Okay.
people do that in spring and fall. Do it before the season starts, and then at the end of the
Mhm.
season. Uh, but definitely, those are things that on an annual
That are
biannual
important.
basis need to be looked at. Yeah,
Okay. And you advise your clients on who to use for those services.
yeah, that'd be us. We stain pressure wash. We're full
Oh, you
service.
do
If
that
you
too?
don't want to
Oh, you do that
oh
too?
yeah, if you don't want to absolutely, yeah, if you don't want to mess with the maintenance boat lift program where we come out every spring and fall, take care of that for
Mhm.
you. Clean, pressure wash, stain, any of that.
Yeah, if I had a doc, you'd be out doing that. I wouldn't be doing that. So, how can homeowners spot early signs of structural problems with their docks?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the biggest sign is unlevel or uneven, framing, gaps, settling. Um, those are what would indicate possible real structural. Just normal wear and tear. Decking. Usually, if you have a wood decking, and usually that goes, deterioration first, and that would just be large
Mhm.
gaps, soft spots, those types of things.
Okay, and then when those early signs of structural problems appear, would they call you and you guys can come out and fix it? You can come out and
Yeah,
repair it.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um, part of what
absolutely,
you do.
absolutely. We
Okay, that's
assess it, kind of go through options are to repair it. If there's more hidden underneath the surface, what that would look like to repair. But yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So I know that sometimes when things go wrong with someone's dock, some repairs are DIY friendly, do it yourself friendly.
Hmm.
But which repairs should only be left to the professionals?
I would definitely say structural repairs. Um,
Okay. So we
obviously that
should not
depends
attempt.
on the
Yeah.
homeowner. Yeah, but yeah, any kind of structural repair, at least have somebody that knows that space. Have them look at
Mhm.
it. Even if you feel like you're capable of replacing this or that, it's always best to have somebody look at it and make sure that you're approaching it the right way. At least.
Mhm. And then I know that there have been some really tremendous storms that have occurred. We've had tornadoes, like the one that wiped out Ringgold and then hit it
Hmm.
again. Um, how do seasonal issues like that affect docks? And
Yeah, I
what are the
mean,
solutions?
yeah, I mean, we build them with wind loads in consideration. So heavy winds. Our roof systems have strapping hurricane ties on them.
Mhm,
Uh, mainly for that wind load.
mhm.
Considerations. Um, floating docks tend to see more wind damage because they are floating. So if you've
They're
got
floating.
2 or 3 foot, yeah, you got 2 or 3 foot waves coming across that lake, and that dock's bouncing around. Gangways getting kind of messed up, and the cables can break loose. But
Mhm.
all that's designed in the beginning, for that. And one thing a lot of homeowners don't realize, probably what does the most damage to any docks is high water. So if we get floods, and that high water coming up and over your dock, uh, should tear up the dock more than anything else.
More than anything, I'm sure. Well, then they call
Yeah,
Blue Horizon Docks and Decks, and you come out and fix it. I mean,
that's
that's
absolutely right.
part of
Yep.
what you do. What liability concerns should homeowners know when they're adding a dock to their property?
Um, I would definitely. recommend all homeowners check with their insurer to see if their dock is covered. I've seen many instances where trees fall on a dock, and they don't have coverage to repair that. And that was just kind of an oversight for the homeowner, not knowing that, they've got to add that as an accessory building, or, an accessory to their homeowner's policy.
Mhm.
Uh,
So it's something that can be corrected. If you're gonna get a dock, call your insurance agent, make sure
yeah,
that it's covered. If it's not, then correct it. Change your policy, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Get a different
Add it
okay,
on to your policy for sure.
add it on your
Yeah.
policy. Okay, so that's important. Now
Yeah.
I
That's
know
the
that,
docks are a big investment. So you might as well make sure you're insured.
protected. Yeah,
Yeah.
you want it to be protected, my goodness. Um, so where do you see your industry in 5 to 10 years?
Um, we've seen some growth definitely over the past few years. Obviously we're depending on the economy well. Docks not
Mhm,
necessary for everyday life, and that's it's a kind of a
mhm.
luxury item to have. So you know, it's all economy driven, and through COVID and all that, there was a huge boom in you know people moving to the area, real estate transfers. A lot of what drives our business on the lake, you know, state.
Mhm.
So new buyers coming in, people buying lots, building houses, needing docks. So it's all standard economic, driven. I don't think there's going
Mhm.
to be any major changes in the way we go about the next 5 to 10
Huh.
years.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. So you are the head of sales with Blue Horizon Docks and
Mhm.
Decks, and you've been with Blue Horizon how many years now?
I've been building docks for about 9 years now.
About 9 years. Okay. And you guys are located in where are you located? I know you're in the
Oodawall,
greater
yeah,
Chattanooga. Ooh,
we're in
right,
Oodawall.
you're
We've got
in
a shop and office in Oodawall. We work
Ooltewah.
basically anywhere within an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. We have gone further than that. It's just based on the job. But as far as dock building, our primary area would be starting up in Knoxville, at Fort Loudon, Tellico Lake, Watts Bar, Chickamauga, obviously, down on
Mhm.
Nickajack, and we do a little bit down on Gunnersville too. So that stretch
Okay.
of Tennessee River system, we do it all.
Okay, Zane, thank you so much for joining us. This is Zane Condo with Blue Horizon Docks and Decks, and I'm Catherine with Chat with Cat. Thank you.